$100,000 in U.S. currency, and Mr. Guthrie was sentenced to serve 30 months in Chinese prison, breaking big rocks down to little rocks. After about a year, and this is a photo of some of the destruction of the DVDs over in China. After about a year, the Chinese decided that Mr. Guthrie would be allowed to go back to the United States. We did an 18-count indictment on Mr. Guthrie in the United States for conspiracy, smuggling, and criminal copyright infringement. That's the Shanghai paper from the day of the arrest. And ultimately, Mr. Guthrie pled guilty in February 2006 to conspiracy and forfeited almost $1 million to ICE and to the U.S. government. And he was sentenced to 60 months in cooperation in 2006, so he's still in prison in the United States. The second case I want to talk a little bit about, after that case, we decided that we'd try it again because we'd developed a rapport with the Chinese authorities, and they had agreed to allow us to come back into the country again. We had a gentleman right here, Mr. Richard Cowley. Mr. Cowley was in Seattle, Washington. Mr. Cowley was one of the major traffickers of counterfeit pharmaceuticals in the world, along with this gentleman here, Mr. David Wang. Mr. David Wang was a Chinese national operating from Tianjin, China. He had previously been convicted in the United States of trafficking counterfeit goods and was expelled back to China, where he started his business up there, and was using Mr. Cowley to ship his goods into the United States. We can attribute at least 3 deaths to the pharmaceuticals that these guys were distributing over in Europe. Again, we had trademark material. We had industry cooperation. We had internet businesses and conspirators in Houston and in Texas. Involved undercover purchases and undercover meetings. Most of the drugs we saw in these cases were Viagra and Cialis. This was the second ever joint undercover investigation involving China and the United States. It was dubbed Operation Ocean Crossing. And again, it's only the second time the Chinese have ever allowed U.S. law enforcement back onto their soil. This case was unique because the investigation took place in the United States. The Chinese government used the details that we developed from our investigation to charge and convict their own citizens, and that's never happened before. They sold these pharmaceuticals through various online sites, Best Online Viagra, newfarm.net, some of the pills that we bought here, Cialis. Ultimately, we went back to China again, and this time we went back into the interior part of the country and to Henan province, which is an interior part of China. We did undercover meetings in Henan province as well as Tianjin, China. Mr. Cowley was indicted and arrested in the United States in simultaneous raids that took place in China and in the United States. The raids in China resulted in 3 factories and a warehouse being closed down, about 1.5 million counterfeit pills being seized, and David Wang and 12 other Chinese nationals were arrested and convicted. This is the lab that we found over in Henan province. And when we're speaking of laboratories, please don't delude yourself into thinking that you're talking guys in white coats and pristine conditions. That little room right there where the next to the white pipe is the lab. It's just in an apartment building. You can see how the conditions are. The pill factory, the ingredients are mixed up. These particular pills we found, when we did the analysis, we found gypsum inside the pills rather than cellulose because it's much cheaper. We found that road paint is the perfect color for Cialis pills. So you can see these guys just make up whatever happens to look good. They're only interested in the colors and being good enough to sell them. And these were very, very high quality counterfeits. You see the pill press. There's some of the lab equipment. You can see the conditions that it's being made under. Ultimately, Mr. Cowley pled guilty in federal court and cooperated with us in the investigation. Another gentleman up in New York was arrested, and he's still awaiting trial. Mr. Wang and his Chinese associates received 10 years in Chinese prison, and as I said, it's the first time that the Chinese government used the investigation and the information that we developed in the United States to arrest their own citizens. Mr. Cowley was sentenced to 1 year in prison and 2 years of home confinement because of his cooperation